Hi, it's Lara here. Welcome to Witchy Wednesday. This is your weekly astrology forecast, and this one's for the week of November 13th to 19th, 2019. Thanks for being here. We've got the moon in Gemini today as I'm recording this, and then on Friday she moves into Cancer, Leo on Sunday, and then Virgo on Tuesday. And if you want to know what's significant about that, then please go download my free Working with the Moon guide. So I made this for you, and it's just a short audio and an accompanying PDF, and it can help you get acquainted with the moon and her significance, in our lives and in astrology as well, and it can help you understand and work with her energies as she travels through the zodiac signs each month. So quite a few people have taken advantage of that already, and I hope you're one of them. So the link is below. You can go hit the link and it'll take you over to my website where you can get that free guide. We have some supportive aspects that are kind of lingering between Mercury, Saturn, Pluto, Neptune. And I spoke about all of these last week in last week's video. So I'm not going to cover those again because I already covered them last week when I did the full moon in Taurus video, right? The full moon in Taurus just happened yesterday. So that video is still very relevant. We're still under the influence of that energy. And so if you didn't get a chance to watch that video, then please go have a peek. Then today and tomorrow and sort of into the weekend, into Friday, we've got a bit of a tense conversation happening between Venus and Neptune. So there's a square between Venus and Neptune happening, right? It squares a conversation of tension. And Venus is in Sagittarius, Neptune's in Pisces. And this can play out in a few ways. There's always a sort of higher octave and a lower octave to all these energies, right? A light and a shadow side. So this can be about some delusions, Neptune, regarding our love, relationships, Venus, self-image, beauty, money, artistic appreciation, that kind of thing, aesthetic. Those are all Venusian themes, right? It can be a need to work through some issues here regarding those themes and to take action, because that's what a square requires us to take action to resolve the tension. And if we don't take action, the tension gets resolved in other ways, right? We end up having to react because something's got to give. So either we are proactive or we end up having to react, our choice. This can also be about taking off the colored glasses, right? That is very Neptunian. Neptune rules the sign of Pisces. Pisces is sometimes known for wearing rose-colored glasses because they are so sensitive that it can be difficult to really face the harsh realities of life. And because they feel so deeply what others feel, right? They take on that collective suffering. So it can be a time of maybe, having to take off the rose-colored glasses a bit regarding those Venusian themes. There can be a tendency to be a bit unrealistic under this aspect. But on the bright side, it's really good for imagination. Like it's a positive quality to be able to see the beauty in people and the good in situations, definitely, but to a point, right? There has to be a boundary there. Neptune, Pisces, has difficulty with boundaries. It tends to lack boundaries, has to work at creating boundaries because, well, Neptune is gaseous. You can't land on Neptune. It's hard to pin down. So, see the good in people and things and the beauty, but not to the point of being taken advantage of, right? Not to the point of compromising your integrity or your values either. but it is a good time to be kind of dreamy and use your imagination, and maybe enjoy the arts. Even it's a good time for that, or work at some kind of artistic project, but nothing too focused with this energy. The moon is in Gemini while this is going on, so that can be a bit like can feel a bit distracted by shiny objects kind of thing, if you know what I mean. So it's not really a great energy for trying to really hard focus on something. And then we have on Friday another event happening that we're going to spend most of the time in the video talking about, and that is that asteroid Ceres is entering the sign of Capricorn on Friday the 15th. So I'll circle back to that in a bit. But on the 19th, we have Mars entering Scorpio, moving out of the sign of Libra and moving into Scorpio, joining Mercury and the Sun in Scorpio as well. We've had a lot of Scorpio going on, and we can see that out in the collective and feel it. And in fact, well, I'll get to that in a second. Let me finish this part first. Mars is the co-ruler of Scorpio, because before Pluto was discovered, Mars ruled both Scorpio and Aries, right? So there's some commonalities there. Mars is our drive, our ambition, our instinct, our will, our impetus to take action. On the shadow side, it can be impulsive, aggressive, not looking or thinking before it leaps kind of thing, right? So these are things to be mindful of. But when Mars is in Scorpio, we've talked a lot about Scorpio energy, right? The depths. Not afraid to kind of go into the dark recesses and the cobwebby spaces. And also Scorpio as an energy is related to power and control, related to betrayal, because they take that very, very seriously, right? Scorpios are very loyal, which some people don't realize, and very intuitive. They have the most finely tuned bullshit detector of any sign in the zodiac, especially Scorpio moons have that. And there is this real need to get at the truth. So it also rules our kind of like our obsessions and our compulsions and, that kind of thing. Or it's associated with that, rather. So Mars and Scorpio, really driven to get to the bottom of things, right? Mars, to deal with the darkness, with our fears, with our, maybe our power and control issues, with our secrets even. Getting the secrets out, or really going after them in a Martian kind of way. And so while that can be very helpful, we also have to be mindful of a tendency perhaps to be a little too aggressive, right? As far as that kind of thing goes. So there's that going on. And of course this will depend on the arena this plays out in. It depends on where Scorpio sits in your chart. So we also have Mercury stationing direct. That's not happening until next Wednesday, but I'm bringing it up here because we'll have other things to discuss next Wednesday. What I suggest you do is go back to the video I did a couple of weeks ago on Mercury retrograde to give you an idea of the themes, right? And so as Mercury stations direct, we will get some forward momentum. Mercury has taken that trip, or is right now taking a trip to the inner realms, right? To retrieve the messages. And and to get further insight. And it's been an interesting Mercury retrograde. It's a bit of a side note, but this is take 2 of this video. I'm blaming Mercury retrograde because I can right now, but because the camera cut off. But anyway, and there's been some interesting things. A lot of people from the past coming back into my awareness and these sorts of things. So I don't know what's been going on for you, but it's been interesting. But anyway, as Mercury stations direct those messages that we went inward to retrieve, and all the tweaks and the edits and the reviewing and the revising and all of that stuff begins to pay off, and we begin to see the outward manifestation of that, right? So that's Mercury direct. But what I wanted to say to you a minute ago when I was talking about Mars and Scorpio is that something I haven't mentioned, and I thought it would just be interesting to just spend a second on here. You may have heard other astrologers talking about it, is that a couple of days ago, Mercury sort of eclipsed the sun. Now, of course, it didn't eclipse the sun because it's much smaller, but it traveled over the surface of the sun. And if it wasn't cloudy where you were, it was here, you could actually see it as a black dot on the sun, right? And so it's kind of like that mercurial energy was really focused and public and out there and shining that light, right? I won't go into all the details, but essentially what I wanted to say was that Mercury, the planet of our communications and our thinking, our ideas, how we communicate, speaking, talking, writing, vocalizing, even our internal talk, these kinds of things, commerce, the exchanges that we have, on the day-to-day, ruled by Mercury. And so Mercury, when this happened, and Mercury's in Scorpio, remember, and the sun is in Scorpio, so this all happened in that intense energy of Scorpio. There was some intense stuff shaken down on social media. And there was a lot of that back and forth, and it was quite intense, like, that had that Scorpio flavor to it, and very public, right? That what people really thought, what people really think, and was very obvious, right? It showed a lot of people's true colors. And so that was quite interesting. It was very, very, very interesting. I had a few exchanges myself, it was so interesting. I don't know if you noticed that, but I'm sure if you kind of think about it retrospectively, I mean, it's still kind of going on. Like these things don't happen just in a flash, right? They sort of reverberate out on either side of the actual event. But just for an example here, in Canada where I live, we had a very well-known hockey figure make some remarks on national television on Remembrance Day, or in relation to our Remembrance Day, right? And it sparked some serious controversy. There is no other place but Canada where hockey could spark that kind of controversy. Really, it wasn't about hockey though. But so, anyways, that was interesting. That's still playing out. So, and of course, I have my own opinions about that, and often I share those things on my personal Facebook page because I'm not one to keep those things to myself. Generally, lots of things I do keep to myself, but I don't usually, this isn't really the forum for that. So anyway, I digress. So that's Mercury. But what I really want to spend most of the time talking about here is Ceres moving into Capricorn. And I'm going to show you the chart before we take a deeper dive as far as that's concerned. So here we've got the chart that I drew up for today. So you'll see, I'll point very first out to you. There's asteroid Ceres, right? Which is just at the end of Sagittarius and going to move into Capricorn on Friday to join the South Node, Saturn, and Pluto that are moving ever closer together, right? Saturn and Pluto towards that conjunction. Then we also have I was just talking about Mercury going to station direct next Wednesday, and the Sun there, close together. Mercury passed over the Sun. And then we have Mars in Libra, who is going to move into Scorpio, like I mentioned. And we have Venus squaring Neptune, right? Neptune in Pisces, Venus in Sagittarius squaring. I talked about that. There's Jupiter in Sagittarius still, going to move into Capricorn not too long from now. And there's Vesta that was conjunct the full moon. I spoke about that in last week's video and the significance of that. Now the moon is in Gemini, though, right? And then Chiron in Aries, that's another thing. On Facebook yesterday, I posted a video. I shared a video of Gabor Mate. I'm not sure if you know who he is or not, but he's a Canadian doctor, and he is very well-versed on trauma, addictions, childhood trauma, this kind of thing. And so, anyways, to make a long story short, I related it to the Chiron and Aries transit that we are in the midst of now until 2027. So if you're curious about that, go check out Facebook. The link is below. Don't really have time to go into it here, but so that's Chiron, and then the North Node in Cancer down here, right? So that's the chart. And let's take a bit of a deeper dive into Ceres and Capricorn, which is happening officially on Friday the 15th. I'm just going to take a sip of tea. I'm still struggling with this cough. It's better, but it's still there, so hopefully I don't have to pause the video again this week to have a coughing fit. Okay, Ceres. Ceres is one of the main asteroid goddesses. Actually, she's a dwarf planet. So she is in the same category as Pluto, right? Who we know packs a big punch. So Ceres, the dwarf planet, her archetype is the Earth Mother, like Mother Nature. She is the goddess of agriculture and grain and motherhood. And she rules the transitions in life for women. So she supports us and mothers us through those changes, right? Through those transitions. And she is the protectress of the natural world that we are part of. Some people still don't get that, but eventually they're not going to have a choice. So she represents how we nurture and what we need to feel nurtured. And she also represents how we were nurtured as children, right? That our Ceres placement in our chart sort of speaks to that. So she was the first asteroid, now called a dwarf planet, discovered in the asteroid belt in 1801. So we've known about her for a long time. But the asteroids didn't really start to be used in astrology until kind of the 60s, 70s, the women's movement sort of thing. She's classified, like I said, as a dwarf planet. In the mythology, she's the daughter of Jupiter, of Zeus. And importantly, she's the mother of Persephone. So Persephone, right, who is the character in mythology that was abducted from her mother and taken to the underworld. And, to see Pluto, who she is, again, has a connection to, in a sense, also a dwarf planet. So this represents the dark side of Ceres, right? So what happened was, just in short, you can look up the myth if you want, but Persephone was taken from Ceres, taken to the underworld. Of course, Ceres was very distraught and bargained, and ended up that Persephone was allowed to spend 6 months in the upper realms, and then the other half of the year in the underworld, right? And so this speaks to the shadow side of Ceres. She can be related to custody issues, to the separation of mother and child, physically or psychologically even. The sort of stripping away of childhood innocence as well, right? These are themes that Ceres can speak to, although that's only one piece of her energy. She is akin to the sign of Cancer. So similar qualities to Cancer. You're right, that nurturing, mothering kind of energy, female energy. But I also see her as being associated with Virgo. I see her as kind of like a blend of those two energies. And Virgo is most often associated with Vesta, goddess Vesta, who was conjunct the full moon in Taurus, right, yesterday. But Virgo is the only female zodiac symbol. And so I see her as having a resonance with the asteroid goddesses. Where Ceres sits in our chart, like I said before, it shows the nature of our nurturing, right? So how we approach that, how we show nurturing to others. It shows how we were nurtured as children, what we need to feel nurtured and comforted as well. And Ceres has been in Sagittarius all year since January, and she's moving into Capricorn this week on Friday, and she will be there until February 1st, 2020. So with this energy, Ceres in Capricorn specifically, right, we're talking about now, there's this need to kind of feel in control and focused. That's what sort of motivates our nurturing, right? It has that flavor to it. And what we need to feel nurtured with Ceres in Capricorn. I have Ceres in Capricorn natally, so I relate to this energy. I would say that a good word to describe Ceres in Capricorn, if we're just going to use one word, would be stoic. Like she is like the stoic mother. I'm trying to think if there's a character that I can think of to encapsulate that. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like she's not like Mother Gothel entangled. Not like that at all. Not that harsh, right? But she takes care of business. If you can think of a character as I'm talking, like once you've listened to this, if you can think of somebody from like a movie or TV show or a book or something, that represents this energy, then drop me a comment below. I'd love to know what you think, what you come up with. But the house that Ceres is transiting over this time, over her transit in Capricorn, is where we're being called to draw on that energy, right, of the Earth Mother. It's like, where do we need to be this stoic mother? And I think this is really interesting that she's moving into the sign of Capricorn, because we all know what's been going on in Capricorn all year. Since kind of even late 2018, and moving towards this Saturn-Pluto conjunction. So there's been a lot going on. So I feel like Ceres is moving into Capricorn to help guide and mother us through that change and transition and upheaval. And I also feel like she's coming in, to kind of help us get through the holidays and the dark days of winter and that sort of thing as well. But so she has this quality of being good in a crisis, of, not panicking, of rolling up her sleeves and just getting on with it. I just thought of it. I know I mentioned Outlander, I think last week, but I'm a little obsessed with it these days. So there is the character of Claire, right? She's like the main female character in Outlander. If you haven't seen Outlander, apologies, but It's pretty intense in a lot of spots, and I have to do a lot of like looking at the screen through my fingers and stuff, but the storyline is really cool, and it really resonates. So anyways, my point is, Claire was a combat nurse, and she is a healer and seen a lot of war, and nursed and healed a lot of men, because at the time it was men soldiers, right? With some pretty serious, she's seen a lot of gory stuff, but always kept her wits about her and knew what needed to be done, and took care of business, and delegated to the other people what they needed to do, and all this kind of stuff. Like, that's kind of her character, right? She had other sides to her, but that's definitely one. So maybe that would be one. That's the character I can think of, Ceres and Capricorn would be associated with. If you can think of somebody else, then let me know. But essentially, not panicking, and taking care of business, responding to crisis with calmness, and being a caretaker in a very practical, efficient way. Feeding people, creating a comfortable space for them to retreat from the outside chaos. Also, holding space for people, if you know what I mean by that. Making sure that the people that you care about have what they need, right? But doing this like in with inner strength, like not being a dish rag, not being walked all over, doing it because it's what needs to be done, but doing it with a sort of in a more feminine versus masculine kind of way. So at the same time, right, this is what we need from others during this time as well. We need them to take care of business, to be responsible, that kind of thing, right? To be that kind of, to encompass that Earth Mother quality for us. That's what we need. And if we can't get that from others, we need to give it to ourselves, right? If there are not people in our world that can support us like that, we need to support ourselves in that way. We need to be the Earth Mother to ourselves, right? And the phrase that came to mind when I was thinking about this is, pardon me, I've used this phrase before in other contexts, but it really applies. Be who you needed when you were younger, right? You've seen that Facebook meme, no doubt. So, somebody that is responsible, that is mature, that is wise, that has your best interest at heart, that comforts you, that you can rely on and you feel safe with, right? And it's the wise crone energy I see this as well, Ceres and Capricorn. So as I mentioned to you, we're moving into, what is often a very busy time, the holiday season for a lot of us, and the dark, cold days of winter, and that looming Saturn-Pluto conjunction. So Ceres in Capricorn energy is here to support us with that. And how we will experience that depends on the house that Capricorn sits in our chart, right? Because that's the house that Ceres is transiting. So I'm going to take the next 15 minutes here to go through each of the signs and speak to that briefly, and see if I can't give you maybe one or two examples that you can draw on to help you figure out how this is potentially playing out, or how you can utilize this energy for yourself. So we're going to start with Capricorn, because Ceres is moving into your sign, Capricorn. And so, Capricorn, you've had a lot to deal with over this last year and a bit, most definitely. It's no secret. And Ceres moving in to this first house of the self is encouraging you to bring those qualities to yourself, to look after yourself, to literally be who you needed when you were younger, right? The first house is our physical vitality and body. It is what we project out into the world, how we are seen out in the world, how we approach our instinctual approach to the world. It's sort of like the moment of birth. When things transit into our first house, there can be this kind of a bit of a rebirth in that energy. And so, pardon me, Capricorn, it's really time to look after yourself. And to maybe, if we're talking about like how you appear to the outside world, perhaps you're taking on a role that will have other people perceiving you as this more Ceres-like quality. Just for example, okay, I'm going to just like pull something out of the air here. You are taking on the role of nurturer that you never really had before, right? And that is now something that's going to be kind of obvious as part of what you project out into the world. So that's one possibility, Capricorn. This is about perhaps focusing on your physical health in a very practical way right now. Taking your vitamins, eating good food, those kinds of things. So we don't have a ton of time, so I think I will leave that there. If you have a question, please ask me below. I'm happy to help with that as best I can. But we're going to move on to Sagittarius now, where we have Sagittarius. You've got Capricorn or Ceres transiting into Capricorn in your second house. So second house of, pardon me, your values, right? Of your self-worth, of your resources, money, time, energy, your material possessions, these kinds of things. And so Ceres moving in here is helping you with whatever slog's been going on in your second house in relation to one or more of those themes that I just talked about. And she's bringing, because that's where Saturn and Pluto are, she's bringing this stoic Earth Mother quality with her, right? She is nurturing that area of your chart and asking you to take on those qualities for yourself as well. And so this could be you perhaps like some kind of Ceres type role that you are taking on can bring more money in for you, right? Some kind of role of like the mother or the nurturer, even involving some of the things we talked about, right? We talked about she's the goddess of grain and agriculture. So it could be something, literally like that, Sagittarius. It could be about you bringing that nurturing quality to your self-worth. Maybe there's been some issues there, and maybe, or there could be another person coming in that has these Ceres qualities that is helping you with that over this time. So that's for you, Sagittarius. We're going to move on to Scorpio now so we don't run out of time. Scorpio, Ceres is going to be transiting your third house of communications, thoughts, ideas, messages exchanged, the house of your immediate environment, right? And all that happens in it and the people in it, which are oftentimes your peers, your neighbors, your siblings, your cousins, that kind of thing. But this communications piece is big, I think, Scorpio. And it's like bringing those qualities, right? There's been some struggles going on here with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction about to happen in the third house for you. And so there's been some hard work, and Ceres is moving in, bringing a more mothering, nurturing quality to that, or perhaps asking you to bring that to your communications, right? And your communication style. So, I mean, there's so many examples I could use here, but that gives you an idea of the energy and the house that it's playing out in for you. So that's for you, Scorpio. Moving on to Libra now, we've got Ceres moving through your fourth house of your home and your family and your place of living and the mother figures in your life. Fourth house is the house of Cancer. Remember, we said Ceres is akin to Cancer, right? So, Libra, this is there's been some struggles here in this fourth house area for you with Saturn and Pluto about to meet up there. And Ceres is moving in there, bringing this more nurturing quality and comfort, right? And there can be some kind of, I mean, you know, on the shadow side, which we really haven't talked much about, but it could be maybe some kind of custody issues in terms of like maybe people are moving houses, or there's been, you know, like a divorce and people are, you know, the kids are now going to have to be in two different houses or something like that. Like that's a possibility. But it's asking you to bring that, you know, that higher octave, right? Really, of Ceres energy, and be the nurturer, and you know, be gentle, be practical, and all of that. Ceres is in Capricorn, but also nurturing. So Libra, that's for you, and we're going to move on to Virgo now, where we've got Ceres in your fifth house, transiting your fifth house of children, of your creative self-expression, of what sparks joy for you. And so Virgo, this is quite literally, you could be taking on this sort of Earth Mother, wise crone energy in relation to the children in your life. You know, maybe over the holidays you're going to be volunteering at a children's hospital or something like that. That's just an example. Perhaps you're bringing that Ceres quality to your creativity, and you're doing something that has to do with this Earth Mother energy. You're bringing that to your creative, you know, projects in some way. So I think we'll leave that there, Virgo, and that gives you something to go on. If you have a question, drop it below, and we'll move it on to Leo now, where we've got Ceres moving through your sixth house of your daily grind, right? The sixth house is like, what do we do from the time we wake up till the time we go to bed at night? That's basically the sixth house. So all our tasks and things that we do on the day-to-day fall into this house, whether they be paid or unpaid. This house also involves our health and wellness and issues around that, because that's a daily thing, right? And it also has to do with pets. And again, if you think about it, pets are something that we have to tend to on the day-to-day. So, Leo, some things going on in this daily routine house for you with Saturn and Pluto there, and it's been a lot of hard work. And so Ceres is coming in there, bringing this nurturing quality and asking you to bring that nurturing quality to your daily routine, right? And to take care of things, take care of your daily routine in a nurturing, practical way. You know, it is in Capricorn, but in a nurturing way. So making sure you're eating properly, and you're taking your vitamins, and you're getting enough rest, and all of this kind of thing, right? So those are some ways that energy could play out for you, Leo. And we're going to move on to Cancer now, where we have Ceres moving through your seventh house, Cancer. So that's your house of one-to-one relationships, right? Close personal relationships. And so there's been a lot going on in this house for you, because Saturn and Pluto have been traveling through there and getting closer together. There's been some struggles, some obstacles, some hard work, you know, perhaps some breakthroughs even. But now Ceres is coming into that house to guide you through the rest of this transit and say, you know, ask you to bring that Earth Mother quality to your one-to-one relationships. Maybe there are significant people in your life who are requiring more of that from you over this transit. That's possible. So I'm going to leave that there for you, Cancer, and move on to Gemini now, where we have Ceres traveling through your 8th house. So Gemini, this is where a lot of the hard work has been happening for you, is the 8th house with Saturn and Pluto there, right? The 8th house, as I see it, is the house of vulnerability, because we, in order to form intimate connections, right, which is the 8th house is, we have to be vulnerable. And it's the things, you know, like our secrets and what's buried in our psyche and hidden knowledge, right? The occult is the 8th house. And those, like, our resources that we share with others, which can be vulnerable, feel vulnerable. And so Gemini, Ceres is moving through here now, bringing a more nurturing energy and asking you to encompass a more nurturing energy in relation to those 8th house themes, right? So, you know, perhaps if there is some psychological healing that needs to happen, you know, maybe Gemini, it's time to find somebody who can support you, and maybe that person will have that Ceres quality. Just one example. But we're going to move on to Taurus now, where we've got Ceres traveling through your 9th house, which is the house of long distance travel, of our belief systems and our philosophies and worldview and our sort of ideologies. And it's the house of higher learning, higher education, right? And what we learn from foreign cultures as well, and those experiences. So Taurus, there's been some struggles here with Saturn, Pluto, a lot of growing pains and hard work. And so Ceres is coming in here, bringing you some, as I see it, support, right? Asking you to take on perhaps the role of that Earth Mother energy, or somebody else coming into your life and to that arena of life, that 9th house arena that embodies those Ceres qualities that we spoke about at the beginning of the video. So that's for you, Taurus. Then we have Aries. We have Ceres moving through your 10th house. It's a very public house, Aries. The house of your career and your worldly ambitions and your reputation and your status and the legacy you wish to leave and your relationship to authority figures and your own authority. So lots has been going on in this arena for you over the last year and a bit, Aries. There's been a lot of hard work happening and growing pains, right? And so Ceres moving in here is bringing some support perhaps from Ceres type figures that can help you in this arena, or asking you to embody that Ceres quality and maybe bring that to the outside world. Perhaps you will be seen as more of a Ceres kind of figure, right? Moving forward, once Ceres moves into to Capricorn in your 10th house. So that's for you, Aries. And we're going to move on to Pisces, where we've got Ceres moving through your 11th house of friendship groups, organizations, clubs, associations, your hopes and dreams for the future, the people that walk the same path as you. So Pisces, lots of growing pains in this department for you over the last year and a bit, right? With Saturn, Pluto there. And now Ceres is coming in saying, Pisces, be who you needed when you were younger in this department, right? Bring that energy of Ceres to this area of life. Or perhaps other people are coming into your sphere through that 11th house, you know, friendship groups, networks, that kind of thing, that have that Ceres energy, and they're bringing that to you in that way. So that's what's going on for you, Pisces. And we're going to move to last but not least in this case, which is Aquarius. Aquarius, Ceres is moving through your 12th house as she enters Capricorn. And that's a very hidden house, right? It's the things that go on behind closed doors. It's the unseen world. It's what we spend time, like how we spend time in solitude and rest and reflection in recovery. It is quite literally can be places that are sort of closed off from the world, right? Rehab facilities, hospitals, ashrams, retreat centers, these kinds of things. So Ceres is coming into this area for you, Aquarius, to bring some nurturing there. Asking you to nurture yourself, perhaps. You know, if you've got some maybe self sabotage going on, then bringing that sort of stoic Earth Mother quality to help you deal with that. Or maybe other people are coming in to your life experience through this time that can help you with those 12th house life areas, right? That we just spoke about. So I will leave that there for you, Aquarius, and that is all 12 signs. I'd be curious to know if this resonated with you, and I will be back next week with another Witchy Wednesday, and hopefully no cough. Okay, take good care. Talk soon. Bye-bye.